we want to continue with this series, but we want to make sure, like, anyone who's sort of like, new to this information, like if this is new to you, like that's, we don't know who sees this or why they see it. That's how we're doing this here. So, if it's new or unfamiliar, this is like like we want to talk about. See, I mean, it's when you have a new organization of capitalism and its principal, sort of the entity here, is doing so much damage to. I mean, it's in so many different places. You sort of like we sort of just started like because of we were talking about what they're doing in India. Right, but they very quickly realized like it was like almost like immoral to like what they're doing in Latin America, which is next just across the border, is equally like murderous, and like also like in terms of the cost to our planet, to the planet we live on. But that it's doing harm in so many different ways on such a mass scale that it's you wanna cover it comprehensively, but also you wanna warn people who are watching this that we're dealing with in this country. And see, this I know because like if you're younger or something, see the sector I'm in and the fact that I'm aware of the problem of what we found out about this like sort of baby boom generation, like this type of these are things I don't know how much. I don't know whether I was, I was kind of kept safe in our game. But I mean, some of these things, and I look back at some of the writing I did online. We started our game, and I said, this looks like the writing of the guy who maybe didn't realize how much rage was inside him. I mean, that's when I started writing that. But I want to warn you before I explain more of the economics of it. You see, part of it is the main topic here. There's lots of different kinds of ways you can find out about the things that are happening that are harming people, because there are people who care about people, and they've been talking about this stuff for years. But like our focus here has been on explaining that the phenomenon that's new is, and it's really we're not repeating ourselves, like we're repeating ourselves on purpose. That is that over the last 30 years, this is so if you're younger than I and this is new information, this is the whatever if someone's telling you that we're living in a capitalist country, we're living under capitalism. Remember, you may as well look through them, because it was the main event, but also the main reason why that I probably shouldn't have written some of that stuff. That that the idea is that if they can't be made aware, this baby boom, like it's pretty the privileged ones. I don't know what the hell happened on campuses in the '60s, but the truth of the matter is, like, whatever these people are who are like they're I guess they're in the '50s or '60s now. These are people that think they're in their 50s or 60s, and the part of them that claim to be economically literate, the thing is that they're still saying things. That was the point. I mean, that you have to be aware that the reason we're focusing on the fact that the form of that the economic the economic system we live under, which is so elastic. That's why it's not really a system. That's why people like me resent this sort of, there's a wing of the baby boom that's from the 60s that kind of went the way of, they had sort of kind hearts, and the other side was sort of all business. Like, the ones with the kind hearts, the thing about them that's sort of, like, that, they really do like talking about the capitalist system, as we live under a system. They say, they're so ignorant. The whole point is that it's not a system. It's something that it's a very elastic form. Like a lot of things that are simple because the basics of it can be like sort of arranged in different ways and are easily reorganized and adjust when new crises emerge, and it's a dynamic form. So with the fact that part of the baby boom that had like they sort of had a heart or whatever, that they're constantly referring to, that we live under like a system, that I don't know if they heard this dialogue, but the thing is, if you think, if they were living under a capitalist, if it was a system, it would be sort of stable and the same from era to era. So the fact is that no, it's a form that could be rearranged, and that's the point of having like a PhD in economics. That people can that they with math and sort of different types of math can reorganize the relationships within the form. So it's not like you're living under a system. That's the sort of talk of one side of the baby boom, in the 50s and 60s. There's the other side of them that's, it's capitalism as far as they know, and they don't call it the capitalist system. So they just call it capitalism. But both types of people I think that they're in their 50s or 60s at this point. That these are the people that want to warn you about. If you ever should, you'd want to, tell them what's taking place and see depending on what sector you're in, see what they could do to I don't know who you want to make aware about, how to, so we don't all die and so our planet doesn't die. But remember, these people who are say 20 years older than I don't know that I haven't revisited our Facebook page, but when I said that we're entering the age of biology, and one would hope that at a certain point that people become aware that the only sort of moral thing to do will be to use the sort of genetic and biological research that's available to determine who these people are, and to destroy the material out of which they're made, so that there can no longer be such individuals. The fact that they're unaware of reality because reality stopped for them on college campuses in the 60s. Some of them were I don't know, they had a big heart, and some of them were a bunch of jerks, and they're busy in their mind or something, they didn't like each other, and they went into different sectors or something. But they're actually unaware of major structural changes and to the way in which capitalism functions, and the toll and the kind of death toll on it. Because they're not that economically awake, is what we found out. That is, that you'd have to be aware that the form, the economics changed in a way that was radically reorganized, because it's not a system and it's not an ism, but it's just basic things that have to do, that can be reorganized in various ways. And this type of reorganization of it has a body count that has to stop, but you'd have to be aware that it was reorganized. Okay, reorganized in the interest of incredibly narrow sectors that are not related to. They're certainly not That's a very specific sector, quite frankly. That's not I'm in the investor class. This is something unrelated to anything I'm talking about. That these kind of people that are that are economically illiterate in a certain way, where you couldn't explain to them that there have been structural changes to the economy, and that those structural changes came with rearrangements of the relationships between the different sectors and this and that they're not that economically awake, that's part of the block on explaining to them things like mass, the death toll, the sort of planet dying, that they can't be made aware. You know what I'm telling you? They can't know for some reason. They're still in their mind on a campus or something in the 60s. They are. So beware, the reason we're trying to explain the sort of structural and economic changes that made way for what's happening is that's the thing that is most important, because that's what we can do something about. That is, this is what you can make a demand. You do live in a democracy. You can make a demand for new kinds of arrangements. You can make a demand to quarantine the economics departments and start to think more seriously about the consequences of sort of high-level institutional thinking in economics departments where people are, making bubble charts and things. I mean, that's something we can control because the economics departments are here. The base of this agro sector that's doing this with all its different arms. That this is something taking place here, and something that people who are economically literate can ask to have it stopped. But that you won't get anywhere talking to people who are, say, older than I. Older than I, meaning like going in their 50s. From that, it's called the baby boom generation. Because they're babies or something. No, it's because there were a lot of people born at that time or something. But this is something that they can't know it or something. They can't know it because they're not economically literate. Is part of it. They do perceive that they have a political economic philosophy, though. We talked about this in the videos other day, but they're under the impression that they're in some kind of ideological dispute with the other type of person in their 50s and 60s. That's we don't know. But if you were to attempt to say hey, did you know what's going on? Uncle whoever, to somebody, they can't know. They're economically illiterate. They're not that interested. They're doing other kinds of things. They're thinking about themselves all the time or something. It doesn't really make a difference. We're gonna. I mean, I shouldn't have said that about Well, be warned. Be warned that this is all these things require economic literacy, and that's the one thing that generation isn't that interested in. They're not. Read their publications. There's regulation versus deregulation, and the other one is the free market versus the intervention into the economy or something. They actually don't know how the economy works. They don't know they just don't know anything about it. They don't. I found that out the hard way. Economics isn't really taught in some sense. What's taught, I've checked it out. I took took a college economics course to see what they're saying. They describe. There's no economic literacy, which is the thing required to ask for what you want changed, and it would start with these kind of contractual arrangements between governments that are allowing for this.